matter of transparency, or rather a lack thereof. That's what some Menomonie School Board members are saying about the superintendent when it comes to expanding the high school's sports complex.
They also say this isn't the first time they've had transparency concerns.
Katrina Lim joins us now in studio to break down what happened during last month's school board meeting.
Well, Keith, Shannon, board members I spoke with say it isn't the expansion project they have a problem with, rather how plans for this taxpayer-funded project were buried in paperwork.
I'm not against the sports complex. It just stinks.
That was a snippet from the Menomonie School Board's January 24 meeting.
The way this was done stinks.
During that meeting, an expansion of the high school sports complex was discussed by District Administrator Joe Zadowski, but some board members were upset that this $2.6 million project was buried in the 30-year maintenance plan.
It's very interesting to try to hide it inside of the plan, and it doesn't even say in the public that we're even discussing that piece about adding the sports complex.
I usually don't agree with Amy, but Amy, I agree with every moment you just said. We talked about a topic. We also talked about, yes, it could come back for a discussion item with some dollars with it, but certainly was never an action item. That was my perspective.
But Zadowski says this project, which would be taxpayer funded, was previously talked about.
In terms of transparency, this was discussed in open session 2 weeks ago. So there's no intent to try to hide anything from anybody.
During the January 24th meeting, Zadowski detailed Phase 3 of the high school sports complex plan, saying the project would include bleachers that could seat 1,000 people, a press box, concession stand, bathrooms, and artificial turf. Board Clerk Clint Moses says the maintenance plan, which was passed back in April 2015, was for upkeep of current facilities, not adding new ones.
For me, the real issue was how it came about. You know, all of a sudden it went from a discussion item, the meeting prior, to an action item with essentially double the amount of expenditures and nothing like we had talked about in the board meeting. So obviously, as a state office holder as well as a state legislator, I am huge on making sure we're involving our constituents.
Board member Chris Freeman says traditionally, the board puts things into a discussion item first and then into an action item, and says what happened on January 24 wasn't the first time.
When you circumvent those rules, or a major item like a sports complex isn't put into the public view of the agenda items that are being discussed and acted upon, it kind of doesn't allow that kind of transparency to emerge.
My hope is moving forward that we can sit down as a board, have a good discussion on it, and see what's in the best interest of all of our stakeholders.
Now, District Administrator Joe Zadowski sent News 18 a written statement saying general project concepts were discussed during a school board meeting on January 10, and that the details and cost estimates for the project were provided to the board in their meeting background packets during the week prior to the January 24 meeting.
Okay, thanks, Katrina. Now, during the January 24th meeting, the board ended up unanimously approving the 30-year plan minus new projects associated with Phase 3 of the high school's sports complex.
For Zadowski's full statement and links to both January meetings, as well as a letter to the editor from former school board members also voicing their discontent, head to WQOW.com.